Hi, I'm Etan Thomas, former NBA player with the Washington Wizards, and thank you for joining us here for another Black History Month panel discussion powered by Athletes for Hope and in conjunction with Reverend Jesse Jackson's historic Rainbow Push Coalition, who have graciously purchased copies of my new book, Police Brutality and White Supremacy, The Fight Against American Traditions, which many of the students here at Clark Atlanta will be receiving, including the students on the panel today. So let me introduce, we have two ladies from the women's basketball team for Clark Atlanta, and I'll let you both introduce yourselves. Ms. Corriana, please introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm Corriana Evans.
All right, and Alexis.
Hi, my name is Alexis Mann.
All right, and thank you for joining us today. There's a lot that I want to talk to y'all about. And I want to start off with these HBCU bomb threats, to be honest with you. Two weeks ago, to start Black History Month, there were bomb threats at, 16 different historically Black colleges and universities. And it's crazy that we're talking about that here in 2022. And I wanted to know what life was like on campus when it happened. What was your reaction? And what is going on now? So first, let's start about when it happened. What was going through your mind, and what was life like on campus? Corriana, I'll start with you.
Me personally, at first, we wasn't really sure if they were true or not because I know we had some like before, and no one really was taking it serious as we was, and most of us on the team we was kind of worried a little bit, but overall, I was like went over our head a little bit because they wasn't really like sending emails about it out to us at this school.
Mm-hmm.
So just like, I guess it is what it is.
Alexis, and what was your reaction, and what was the conversation like? Around everyone in your circle when it all happened.
Well, unfortunately, it was a normal day for us where not receiving threats like that, but where we receive news that should be alarming, but we're kind of used to going about our day, hearing something that's alarming, but no one really doing anything about it. So in Atlanta, you would think, they would immediately send some people over to do what they're supposed to do to make the community safer, at least make the students feel safer. But unfortunately, it was kind of like a rumor. And it was like, we don't know. We knew because anything that happens at Morehouse or Spelman is likely to happen at Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of were like, okay, are we going to get an email about it? Because I remember hearing something about it in practice that morning. And we just went along with our regular day, went to classes and didn't hear anything about it. So that was unfortunate to have another situation in Atlanta where we didn't feel safe and didn't have anyone speak on it immediately and just go about our regular days.
So to the people, in the audience that don't know, and we'll be sending this and showing this to a lot of different people, explain how the setup is with Morehouse and Spelman, because a lot of people don't know the proximity of the different schools.
So the AUC is made up of Morehouse College, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta, and we're really all right next to each other. And so you could literally just walk across the street to Morehouse or to Spelman. It's that close to each other. Like if you think, oh, okay, they're neighbors, it's way closer than it's literally like having like the house right next to you. So it's that close.
So you do a lot of events together and a lot of things kind of together, all three of you.
Yes.
Okay. But the news was so when you said the news was spreading about Morehouse and Spelman, and then you all didn't get a notification. Like, explain to me what you mean by that. Like, how did that happen when it was two of them and it was a lot of alarming and a lot of everything like that, and people were making statements and presidents were making statements and all those things, at least for what we were seeing on the outside, watching CNN and different things. But what was going on at Clark Atlanta?
Right. So usually when anything like this, as serious as this happens, or anything slightly as like someone suspicious on campus, you get a note. You should get a notification to your email. Like every student should get a notification. Honestly, every student should get a phone call, like one of those immediate like automatic phone calls that says like, this is what's happening on your campus, please seek safety, blah blah blah. But we didn't get any of that. I don't even remember when we got a notification about the possible bomb threats, but it's not consistent enough. It's really sad, but the way we're set up in Atlanta, anything can happen at any time, and there really needs to be a better communication for the safety of the students, and we didn't get any of that day, at least, or not in a timely manner.
So what do you mean when you say that anything could happen at any time? Like what do you mean by that?
Well, our campus is very open. So just like it's not the entire campus isn't like you might go across the street and you might be at Walmart, but you
Okay.
also might go like the same direction a different way. You could be, on campus still. So the campus is very open. It's not like you enter and the whole community is just Clark Atlanta specifically. So
Right.
anything, I mean, we're really smack in the city, so anything could happen just like any other campus, but it's just more likely to happen, it feels like.
No, I understand what you mean. So Coriana, let me ask you, since then, so we're 2 weeks removed from that, and it was reported, according to CNN and the things that we're seeing, that the FBI was going to make it a top priority, and they came out with a statement and they said, that they're investigating and everything like that. But when I talk to other HBCUs, they don't feel any safer. They don't feel like anything happened. There was no increase of police presence, or they didn't see an increase of FBI presence or anything like that to make them feel safer. How is it at Clark Atlanta? Do you have the same sentiments?
That's true. Like, being here, it's like what Lex said, like anything could happen. Like we don't have like campus police around. Like if anything was to happen, like with the bomb threats and stuff, like I don't know, it's like you're not safe here for real, for real. But to me, I don't think I'm safe here. Like you can walk outside and anything can happen because you never know. Like I don't know. I'm trying to see how I guess it is.
No, just be honest, because that's what that's the sentiment that I got, when we did these panels. We did it with, Southern University, we did it with Howard University, and they all kind of said the same thing, that they don't feel any safer right now. And I was a little bit surprised to hear that because of what CNN was reporting, and the media was all reporting that the FBI is making it a top priority, and we're going to do this, so we're going to be on it. We have the suspects that we have, and we're going to be questioned. Like they were saying all these different things, like it was an episode of Law and Order or something like that. But when I talk to y'all, y'all are like, we don't see any of that, and we don't feel any safer. So that's why I'm kind of wondering, what's going on.
It's no safety here if we're being honest. Well, I'm just gonna be honest. There's no safety here. Like we don't feel like. Well, I don't feel like I'm protected here. Like walk outside, anything can happen to us. No campus police around, like real police, like with the bomb threats and stuff. Like they should have took it more serious, because what if something did happen? Like what if the school did get blow up? Then what? We never knew about it. We just in practice having a normal day. It's a lot with this school. I don't know. It's different.
So were you all shut down for a while? Like you said, it was just business as usual. But I mean, the day that it happened or the next day, there had to be some kind of reaction from the school. We all shut down, schools canceled, everybody told to stay in their dorms, or anything like that happening?
No, it was a normal day. What's going on with our day?
As it's supposed to, it would be nice if, after something as serious as a bomb threat, and people are going to have a lot of things to say about it, and we're not just here to speak down on Clark Atlanta, but when it comes to our safety and something as serious as a bomb threat, there are certain things that should take place. Like after something as big as that, you should be every corner you turn, or every building you enter, like they should be demanding your ID. They should be demanding some proof that you go here, and it might be annoying, but I can't be upset about it if that's what they're doing to take care of the students here. Because like Corriana said, if something serious were to happen, that would be a huge deal, and I think it went over a lot of people's head, and a lot of people have things to say about it. But that's how it should have been. We should have been locked down. Like people should have been locked in their dorms. Like nobody should be moving around campus. This is really serious.
Wow. Wow. Now, what were the conversations with you within your team? Did y'all talk about it as a team? Did your coaches get you together? Did you just talk about it amongst your teammates? Like, what was the discussion?
Well, I mean, we were looking out for an email. That's what we were hoping for to confirm, like should we go to class? Should we stay in our dorms? What does it look like on campus? But that's just not, we didn't know how serious it was because no one really told us what was going on. So you can't just, not go to class because, oh, it's a rumor, like who said that? But some people are taking it more seriously than others. Obviously, that's what it feels like.
Wow, interesting, interesting. So, one of the things that I've been doing, I wrote this book, Police Brutality and White Supremacy, the fight against American traditions, and in talking about different things as far as the threat of Black excellence and the threat of higher education and what you represent, of Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, all the HBCUs, is Black excellence, and that's a threat to white supremacy. And it's interesting because it goes back so far. But right before Black History Month, there was a lot of talk of saying, okay, we've moved past the things of the past. I was on this program and this person was saying, you're drumming up the past when we're moving away from it. The issues that we've had in the past aren't, here anymore. And which is always kind of weird when you hear people say things like that. And then it's like the next day, 16 HBCUs had bomb threats. And I wanted to go back on the show, but they didn't let me come back on. I'm not going to say the name of the show, but I wanted to go back on it. But, it's so when you hear things like that, does it make you think that we still have a way to go? Even, and the fact that there was no arrest made yet. Like I would have thought that, they got the guy, they got the people, whoever was going to give us something, but there's nothing that they have given us. So some people, just thought that it would be a good idea to do this strategically to 16 different HBCUs. Do you know what I mean? What does that tell you of how far we really have to go in this struggle against white supremacy, against racism in this country?
Well, first of all, it's alarming anytime someone does say that we need to leave that in the past because it's such a big part of our history.
Right.
And really the basis of where our schools were founded on. And so it's not just easy to just say, oh, let it go. That was in the past. But just moving forward, like our education is a threat to many people.
Mm-hmm.
So us being able to, come to schools like this and have pride and people just be able to, brush certain things off their shoulders so easily, it is concerning. And so as far as the arrest, I think it's really interesting how they kind of protected the identity of the people who were suspected, who were supposedly did the bomb threats. And I think they were already criminals. That's what they like to quickly call Black people criminals, thugs, all this. But when it comes to bomb threats to 16 different HBCUs, you want to protect someone's identity. I just think it's clearly off, and it's clear what is happening. But at the same time, we're supposed to leave things in the past. I think it's ridiculous, and it's you can't leave things in the past like that when things keep happening to Black people like that, and specifically Black people, like HBCUs, like that's what's happening here. So we can't leave it in the past.
I want to keep this conversation going, and one of the things that we're because there was a conversation around it in the beginning, like that week, and then I haven't really heard too much about it. Afterwards, like people are like, okay, it happened, let's just move on from it. And I'm like, well, no, we can't move on from this. This is something that happened that we have to deal with. And I was like, imagine if there was, bomb threats to all Ivy League schools, and
exactly,
and you still didn't find who did it. Would y'all have just left it alone? Would it not be talked about anymore? But Corriana, what does that tell you as well, as far as how far we have to continue to keep pushing with race relations and everything in this country?
Honestly, I feel like we have a long way to go. And I feel like if it was like at a white school, none of this stuff would be going on. It would be a lot. People would be in classes, be a lot of securities out. I just feel like for the Black community, we have a lot of work to do. And it's as sad as it is to say, it's like we got to do better.
Definitely, it's interesting because in talking about this, since I'm a former athlete, I always talk about the power of athletes, the power of the athlete voice. Before this book, I wrote another book called We Matter: Athletes and Activism, where I interviewed all these different athletes talking about how they're using their platform and their voices to push for change. And one of the people that I interviewed was Swin Cash and Tamika Catchings, and they talked about how everything that happened with the WNBA after the back-to-back murders of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. This is going back a few years ago, and they used their voices and their platforms to speak out about it because nobody was speaking out about it. Nothing was happening. They wanted to use their platform, and they did it in a way where they did it all together. And it was really amazing to me, you know what I mean, to see the power of what they did together. The seeing things like that happen specifically from the WNBA, from other female athletes, is it inspirational to you to see? Does it inspire you to be able to walk into that same, light and use your platform the same way? Alexis, I'll start with you.
Yes, I would say it's definitely inspiring. I love the WNBA. Obviously, I'm biased, but I really do. The women have so much to do. You can learn from them off the court. Everything they do, you can learn from them off the court, especially women in sports. They have this it's just something that about them where like men, everyone's gonna love, men's sports and all of that. But women, like, we always have a target on our back no matter what we do. Like, any comment you look under a WNBA picture, there's someone telling them, go back in the kitchen, go where you're supposed to be. But it is inspiring to see these women stand up for what we believe in, because as a student, as athletes in general, like, someone's always watching you harder than they're watching anyone else. And Coach tells us that all the time. Like, you can't move like regular students do. Like, someone's always trying to point you out or trying to get you in trouble, because everyone's always watching you. Like, whether they look up to you or whether they just have it out for you, someone's always looking out for you. And so that's a way we can use our platform, is just to be good role models and to speak up on the things that we believe in, because everyone's always watching, whether you're a college athlete, high school athlete, professional athlete, someone's watching, and they might have good intentions or ill intentions, but I think it's inspiring the way these professional athletes are using their platforms, and we can do the same thing.
Definitely agree. Corriana, what do you think?
I'm gonna sit this one out.
Because it was now. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like, so, just a few summers ago, was it the dates? COVID dates get dates all kind of blurred. But when there was the election with Raphael Warnock and all the WNBA got together and they said, we're going to support him and we're going to push for him. And they did it in a way where it was amazing to me, because I'm looking at it. And before they offered him, their support and threw their support behind him, he was only polling at like 6%. 6% is very low to be polling at. You know what I mean? And they really pushed him into office. And it's beautiful to see athletes using their voices, in that way, but doing it together. But the thing that is special about the WNBA and how they do it is because they do it all together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's not the way that we've had. Like, so for instance, when Kaepernick took a knee, he was kind of out there by himself for a little while. You know what I mean? And then you had a few players, all right, we're going to stand with you and stuff like that. I mean, different, in the NBA, you have different guys say a few things and you'll have maybe a few teammates stand with him, but the WNBA, y'all do it all together. And it's just, there's a certain way that women move differently. Correct me if I'm wrong, where it is like it's a support system that is like kind of one for all and all for one type of thing that the men haven't quite figured out how to do quite yet. Do you agree with me, Alexis, or am I kind of off base with it?
I agree with
I somewhat agree with you completely all the way, because I've been to a school where in the midst of all this, my coach told me, like, take a knee if you want to, like, the scholarship is on the line.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think it has to do with the community of, like, women outside of sports. Like, togetherness is very important for us. And so I think the WNBA, I think, is very impressive how they were able to come together on this one topic and stand on it. But also you have to look at who watches the WNBA and who critiques it and all of that. But in the NBA, it's kind of it's more similar to Colin Kaepernick's situation where, you know, he took a knee. Some people were like, I don't know, I don't want to get trouble, I don't want to get fined for all this. But WNBA, like, they took the risk, but what were they going to do? Like, what was the league going to do to them? You know, like, people already have so many negative things to say about women in sports, get along the WNBA. So I think they just honestly, they took that chance. They just said, you know what, we have to do what we have to do. We're just going to have to take this chance, whatever the consequences may be, so be it. But I mean, the way that WNBA players get paid and the way they have to sacrifice their bodies as women post-pregnancy coming right back into the league after they have their babies is just different for professional sports in for men. And so I agree that I think it's just really impressive how the women, just like women have to do, oftentimes we kind of just have to say, hey, here, I'll do it, you know, like, kind of like, watch this, like, I'll do it. And I think the NBA also impressive in this situation, but there's just different eyes targeted at both of the leagues.
I definitely agree with that, you know, but one of the things that I saw with the WNBA, so if you remember going back when it happened, the WNBA president at the time issued a statement, and she said, you know, so what happened was the WNBA players wore Black Lives Matter t-shirts. It was especially in Minnesota. So then the police that were there, working the game, they got up and left, and they left their posts. And so they got upset that they wore Black Lives Matter t-shirts, and then other people were upset and everything like that. So then the president came out and said, nobody do that again, or else they're going to get fined or they're going to get suspended, right? That was what the president came out and said. Then it was like all the WNBA players, and I know this because this is what Swin Cash and Tamika Catchings told me what happened. They got on like this big conference call with all of the different players, and they talked for a few days, and then all of them decided to all do it together. So the thought was, okay, y'all can't, suspend all of us because then you have nobody to play the game. So they all did it together. And then it was so funny. A few days later, you saw the same president who said that they were going to suspend anybody or anything like that did it, then changed her whole tune and said, well, we appreciate our players using their voices and things of that nature. I was like, look at that. But it was because they all did it together, though. You know what I mean? If it would have just been like a few of them here and there, I bet you they would have got suspended. But the fact that they did it all there together, and I haven't seen stuff like that. Like, I would love for the men, like the NFL, all the men to be able to do that together. I haven't seen them move like that for the women. So I got to give the women props. And I use that as examples to show when I'm talking. I was like, look at how the WNBA did it. That's how you protest. That's how you use your voice all together. What do you think about that, Corriana?
I feel like personally for the women's, it's like if girls come together, we all have each other back. We support each other with everything that we do. And it's just like, for the men, I don't know if it's the same because it's just like every man for themselves, like with the men. Like if one man do it, just like, oh, I'm not even gonna get in it because I don't want to get fined and all that stuff. But for women, it's like they have each other back. Like if one say we should do this and the others are gonna agree, then everyone's gonna come along. So yeah.
What do you think, Alexis?
I think this is just one, unfortunately, another thing that women we have in common that we have to fight for, and like Corriana said, have each other's back. Like as far as the WNBA, like people are always coming for, whether they should be playing sports or not, whether they should be more on motherly duties instead, or if they should work outside of sports. Is always something where women have to protect each other and be there for each other. And so this was just like, hey, y'all, like they're doing this again. You know, we're gonna have to come together again on this topic instead. So it's just so many things that women in sports endure, especially at the professional level. Like it's just so much that they endure. They have to go. They play professionally in the States, and then turn around, might have a baby, and then they go play overseas where they can make more money, and it's back to back to back on their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're fighting for, better pay. They're fighting to be able to stand up for Black lives. And the list just goes on, honestly. So this was just another thing that women had to fight for in sports.
In that same vein, do you see the correlation coming down to in your on your level in college, and and having to have each other's back? You said like one of the things of women, there's so much against them, so many different obstacles that they have to be able to fight against and overcome, that they support each other on a different type of a level. And that's interesting because that's what a lot of people have said when I asked them this question as to why is it so different with women than men, talking about the WNBA versus the NBA or the NFL. Do you experience that same thing in college right now, where you have to support your fellow teammates on issues of things that you all just have to come together in the same way? You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I think we definitely have to do that. But I think, especially on the topic of this discussion, I think HBCU students have to do it more, because you have. I remember, I think it was NBA TV said something about how they were going to, in light of Black History Month, they were going to broadcast, I think, 4 HBCU games, basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
And, to someone who would just say, let's leave it in the past, maybe that's like, oh, yeah, like that's good for HBCUs. Like, that's a good thing to do. But then you have HBCU students and student athletes who are like, that's it. Like, you're just going to broadcast 4 games for Black History Month. Like, what are you trying to say? Because honestly, I think it's offensive. But just going back to your question, like, I think there's many times where we have to support one another, just to have other women's backs, or just to have other HBCU teams backs, like just there to support each other, because not everybody's going to do it, where you have to just, come out and say, you know what, I'll do it myself. No one else is going to do it. I think an example of this is just our support in the AUC, like our support in the men's teams for Morehouse, and just coming together, seeing them play and compete. Like, at the end of the day, it's a competition, and we want to support one another, whether that gets the broadcasting that another bigger HBCU would, or another PWI would. We just have to be there for each other, and that's where that support comes from.
Interesting. What you want to add to that, Corriana?
She got the spotlight.
But I did see you nod when she said that it was a little offensive that the NBA TV had just agreed that what you're going to do for HBCUs is broadcast some of their games. What
I do like they should have did like all HBCUs, not just 4. I feel like they should have did all of us.
Okay, that makes sense. And can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Alexis, of why it was offensive? Because I have heard different people say that, like, there's more that you can do than broadcast the games, which is, broadcast the games are cool, like that's nice, you know what I mean? But there's more that you can do. What more would you like to see specifically, the NBA and to do?
I was saying that it was offensive because it was just very temporary. It was just something how Bath and Body Works had that whole thing where they came out and put on African clothing in support of Black History Month. It's like, wow, I'm like really rolling my eyes right now, because like it's February, but like Black history is not just February. It's so much more than that. And people just want to come out of nowhere and support Black lives after someone dies or after someone's murdered. It's just really unfortunate. It's a nice move, as far as like, that's really nice. Thank you for broadcasting HBCUs, because we don't get that exposure. But the fact that it's in light of Black History Month, like you can do better. Like you need to do something more long term that really digs and applies to more students and long term education and internships. I had this discussion with someone else, but broadcasting our games, like what are you doing for those student athletes? So what? Like their families can watch that one game more. That one game their family can watch on TV, but what else are you doing for those student athletes? Those student athletes are not really getting paid. Like, what are they getting out of it? So what opportunities can you offer students at HBCUs other than just putting them on TV for a couple of hours?
So I think you brought up a good point. You mentioned internships, which is something that can definitely, help, as far as funding. We hear a lot about the different funding things that HBCUs do need fundings in different departments. Like specific asks. I think that sometimes when we are looking for, it's interesting because, and this is the reason why I say this, because in doing this work, after George Floyd was murdered, a lot of different companies said, okay, what should we do? Like, what can we do right now? And they said, okay, we could, donate some money to an organization. Okay, what organization should we donate to? All right, let's donate to Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? Or let's donate to, this organization that we've heard, or this organization that we've heard or seen somewhere. And so you have people, and I work with a lot of the family members of victims of police brutality in particular. And they're, what they were saying a lot in this book that a lot of you will receive, that the help that they wanted was a little bit more specific. They didn't want people to wear a T-shirt or to be able to have, a tweet from a company that says Black Lives Matter or, something. They're like, that's cool. That's, what I mean? Like, thank you for that. But what we need is a little bit more long term. They want to change the way that there are policings that is done in this country. So, when they're fighting for the things to be able to be changed in their different cities, they want support from that company who is in that city, to fight for laws to actually be changed. They wanted something more tangible. And it's interesting because as you're saying this, that's the first thing that I thought of is tangible things that would actually help, not necessarily surface things that are okay for a moment. Or Black History Month, you show a game and then that's it. You know what I mean? You feel like you've done, everything that you need to do to help the HBCUs, but there's a lot more. So putting together specific asks, I think would be good because in their minds, they've done great by this. So great. So we have two brothers from the basketball team to join us in this conversation. And we have, go ahead and I'll let you introduce yourselves. Benjamin, you introduce yourself first.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Benjamin Raspberry. Play for the Clark Atlanta men's basketball team.
Okay.
And how's it going, everyone? My name is Shannon Smith, grad student at Clark Atlanta University. I play on the men's basketball team as well.
Great. Thank you for joining us. We're having a great discussion here. And we'll keep going with exactly what we're talking about. The NBA and NBA TV is going to broadcast some HBCU games. And we're talking about how the ask needs to be bigger and their contribution needs to be bigger, to be honest with you. And it's great. It's great that they're going to show games and being able to showcase HBCUs, but there's a lot more that needs to be done, funding wise, internship opportunities, different things, different networks of being able to introduce different students of different programs, broadcasting there's a lot more that could be done. And we're just talking about how athletes can use their voices and their platforms in a way that regular students really can't. And Benjamin, I want to start with you. Do you feel empowered to really use your voice as an athlete, when different things are happening on campus?
Yes, sir. I feel like that a lot. I feel like a lot of my teammates and I agree to this one thing. I think that we can use our voice a lot more on this campus than a lot of everybody, and everybody comes together. If we say it, then the whole AUC kind of gets behind us and rallies behind us on that.
Okay. And do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely agree. The reason why I say this though is because I got a chance to experience it as a regular student and a student athlete. So as a regular student, you say some things that might get around to some people, but being a student athlete, everybody knows you. Everybody knows your jersey number. They know your face. They know who you are. So being able to be in that type of role is completely different, and it helps out a lot to getting the word out to anybody and everyone about whatever the cause or topic is.
So let me ask you this. One of the things that we talked about was what happened earlier with the bomb threats.
Mhm.
And we talked about how there wasn't a lot of conversation about it post bomb threats. You heard a lot of it at first, but then it's kind of died down. And I asked them if they felt any safer now, say 2 weeks removed, on campus. Because what we've seen on CNN, what we've seen on different MSNBC reported in the beginning was that the FBI was making it top priority. We're going to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. They were saying that, and then it just went away. And so I'm wondering, okay, so what happened? What is life like on campus right now? And they said, well, we don't see any police presence. We don't see any people checking IDs. We don't see any other things that you would think would happen if you see a bomb threat happen on a university. And I want to ask you all the same thing. What do you all see from 2 weeks ago till now that has changed on campus to make you feel that you are safer?
That's a really good question. I'll take it first, Benji, and then I'll give it over to you. I would say, in terms of safety, I do see police patrolling around in cars, in their police cars, but it's usual duty. I don't think it's much has changed overall from what it's been before. People have been kind of, I want to say, doing the normal like they usually have done, because I don't remember much talk. I think the reason for it is because I guess they don't want to scare people or really have people in the back of their mind like, hey, I'm on campus, but this isn't a safe place for me when they're living there 24/7, so they're trying to keep things pretty quiet, in my opinion. That's what I've noticed. So I don't see much of a difference so far.
Benjamin, what about you?
Piggyback off what Shannon said. Life on campus kind of was normal. It was like no one never heard of it no more. I had a couple friends from Morehouse and some Spelman friends. They just went home. They didn't feel safe at first, and then 2 days later, the people got caught, and then it's like, okay, school gonna go back to normal. Everything go back to normal.
One of the things that was interesting is since I retired from the NBA, I've been doing a lot of stuff in the media, and I'm watching the language that the media uses. So I saw that they had suspects, that they had, they didn't say that they caught the criminals, and they didn't say it like that. They said that people were suspected and they kept their identity quiet, and nobody saw their faces. Like you correct me if I'm wrong if y'all saw the people's faces, but nobody saw their identity or their faces. And I'm just thinking of how this would have been completely different and handled differently if it was at Ivy Leagues. So say Ivy Leagues all got, bomb threats. I don't think the media would let go of it until they got to the bottom of it and you saw the person's face plastered who was responsible for it, and everybody was told, all right, this person is going to be held accountable to the high extent of the law. That's what I think would have happened at Ivy Leagues, and that's what I don't see happening with HBCUs, and it needs to happen, to be honest with you. Shannon, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's super crazy to even think that just because it's an HBCU, or who knows what the reason is behind it with the media and why we're not getting the attention that we need to get in terms of something like that. If it was an Ivy League school, I think the headline would say terror. That's what screams when you hear the word bomb come to mind. And for them to just be labeled suspects or just, still trying to figure out what's going on within this bomb threat, it's disgusting to me, because it just hurts. It's like, well, why don't we get that same type of alarming feeling when it's going towards an HBCU? But if it's a prestigious Ivy League, we got to get to the bottom of this, so it does hurt.
Right. And Benjamin, what do you think?
I had a chance to kind of experience a PWI school, and how I know during the time it was around election time, and how things were very tight and around group when they would have their campaigns go around, and how everything was serious. So for it to have a bomb threat over here at Clark and it spelled me around the whole AUC and how it's nonchalant, it was like we all need closure and we never got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the one thing that we kind of feel strong about.
I mean, I think that makes sense, Alexis. Closure, and you know, it's like open now. I mean, I don't know, like I would like to see, you know, it be brought more to the attention. It just happened 2 weeks ago, but it's too quiet. It's just too quiet for me. I mean, I know if I just know things are handled differently in different places, and that's the part where we have to continue to demand, I mean, equality. And you, like we talked about before, people asking us and telling us that it's time to move on, but you're seeing things in the present showing you that things are not equal. So you can't move on when you're still having the same type of fights. Do you agree, Alexis?
Yes, I definitely agree. And just like Benjamin, I also experienced a PWI where things would happen on campus and it was handled completely differently. Like we would receive, everyone would receive back-to-back emails and phone calls that were automatic telling you, hey, like this is what's going on. You need to seek shelter, safety, do all the things you need to do. But this is, and they would have a description of the person and around what area. And it's like, okay, like that's pretty much how you handle it. You get to decide what you want to do from that point. But in our situation, when Benjamin said we need closure, like that kind of really hit home to me because it happened. But like, what are y'all gonna do now? Because that was a specific attack on Black people. Like we're not just gonna sit here and pretend, oh, you know, I don't know why they decided to attack HBCUs. Like, no, we know why you decided to attack HBCUs. It's racist. People want to, you know, make it seem like the whole thing is gentle and some people were suspected of doing this and hide their identity. Like y'all are acting like someone brought a knife to campus. Like no,
Right.
this is a whole bomb threat to take people's lives, and we don't have closure on the situation. Like I mean, because the situation is not even highly talked about, it wasn't highly talked about when it happened, it's not being highly talked about now. Like who knows what people are thinking now, and who knows what people think they can do now on our campus because this is how our school reacted to it.
Wow. Corriana, what do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree with that. And I got a chance to experience a PWI school as well. And I feel like what they're doing here is completely different than what they would have handled it at another school.
So as at like in going back to what we talked about before, the brothers came on, you know, as athletes, we have this ability to bring things to light. When I don't want to say regular students, but it's the truth. They don't have necessarily the media at their disposal. They don't have the following. They don't have the platform. It is different. You know, is this something that you all as athletes, you know, on your team or something like that have talked about together? Because we used the example before about how athletes can get things done. We talked about how the WNBA, you know, moved and really, I mean, we talk about the election with Raphael Warnock. I mean, he was polling at 6% before the WNBA got involved. They really rallied around him, and I would say really got him in office. And Kelly Loeffler, you know, out of office, and she was the owner of the Dream. So it was really amazing what they did when they all did it together. But we did talk about there is a difference of how women are able to do things together that the brother's not really able to do as much. To be quite honest, you know, I talked about when Kaepernick first took a knee, he was kind of out there by himself, to be honest with you, as opposed to in the WNBA, have done things like after back-to-back deaths of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, they all joined together as an entire league. You know, even the foreign players who ain't even from here, don't even know what was going on. You know, they all stood together and they moved as one unit. Why do you think it's so hard for us brothers to be able to do that in our sports? Why do you think that is? I mean, it's a tough question, but I always ask this because I see how powerful it is when we do move as a unit, because there's strength in numbers. Like people have always talked about, you know, but our cases have been one brave soul that has stood alone and stood about on this. So one, you know what I mean? It's completely different. Why is it so hard for us to all collectively stand together on something?
That's a question that probably everybody has a different answer to. In my opinion, I relate it to, everybody knows this consequence in sports, running, right? When something goes wrong.
Right.
So, when your teammate messes up and your coach says, "Hey, get on that line," all of you go, "But coach, I wasn't the one that did. I didn't do it. Well, I got to get on the line and run with him. I don't want to suffer the same consequences he went through." So if a guy is deciding to, hey, finally stand up and he believes for something that's right, a lot of people should agree and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm with this guy. I'm going to stand up with him. I'll run with you," right? But a lot of people, when, for example, like Kaepernick, they didn't want to run that same race that he's been running. I mean, his life has totally changed, and I think for the better, because he's actually highlighted a lot of things that have been going on in history and now has come to the light finally, even though the media still doesn't want to really portray everything. It's still coming out, and people have been behind him regarding it. But, there's always those people that say, "Hey, I'm not going to run that race. That's not my race to run." So I think that's what it is, but many people have different answers.
Well, no, it's interesting because you even look at, like, so say Brian Flores, you saw that situation happen, right? So he came out. I would have thought all the coaches, all the black coaches would be like, "Oh no, we definitely support." You ain't heard nobody say nothing, unless you've heard something that I haven't heard. Nobody said anything. He was just out there by himself right now.
Right.
To right now, as we're talking right now, he's by himself. And it's just, I'm seeing that happen over and over as a pattern. But we have to, I think, in looking at this, we have examples where it's worked when we've all done things together. And we have that example to look as how, our female counterparts have been able to do things and move. Benjamin, what do you think about that?
I think we're very hesitant. I think that we see a lot of things we don't want to necessarily be judged, and so we kind of look around the subject. We say, okay, well, if we stand together, what is the consequence? Like Shannon said, what is always going to be the consequence of what I do? Because unfortunately, we all need a job to feed our family and feed others, but at the same time, we know that something's right and we have to stand strong. So I think that over time, just like the WNBA, how they stood together, we're starting to finally figure out and make these right kind of judgments and say, you know what, it's time for a change to happen.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when we do have those examples of when we all stood together. I mean, last year, the year before that, when you had Jacob Blake, who was shot, all those multiple times, and you had, the Milwaukee Bucks stop, say, "Look, we're not playing today. Like, this is wrong. What happened?" And they, we're going to say that it's wrong. And they were in, it happened in Wisconsin. It was in their city. I thought that was major. You know what I mean? Because they all did it together. And really, when you're talking about on a college level, really to make a statement, it has to be together. And that's the thing that I've continuously heard. So I want to really, challenge you all to, you all are able to, and this is the thing that I love about this generation. Y'all are able to communicate and organize in a way that we didn't have. So, we didn't have social media when I was playing. Like, y'all don't know, but social media is kind of relatively new. So y'all can't imagine a world without social media, but we didn't have that when I played. So y'all can organize in a way that we really couldn't more easily, right? And there are so many things that are going on campuses. We talked about the HBCUs. We talked about the difference of the funding, the difference in the opportunities, the difference in the internships. So the MBA is, making a joint statement, making a joint, demand, making a joint, that it's from the FBI or the local authorities to make sure that y'all stay safe, but hearing it together from y'all. You know what I mean? I think because y'all deserve to be able to feel safe. Y'all should be able to feel safe going to school. That's not a difficult thing that should be asked, to be able to come into existence. Y'all are the example of Black excellence. You know what I mean? HBCUs. Y'all are like precious, preserved, uplifted, everything like that. But right now, y'all don't feel safe. I think that's a problem. Do you know what I mean? So as athletes, you have the ability to demand that things are put in place for you to feel safe in a way that regular students, might not have that ability. And I just want to know if y'all understand the power of your voices right now. Not like y'all have to wait until y'all, if y'all are professionals and when y'all come at it, but I mean right now, where you are right now, the power of your voices. I want to go around and ask each of you if you recognize that. Do you recognize that? Start with you, Benjamin.
Yes, sir. I recognize it a lot, especially in this time. I feel like a lot of social media and the way that we all communicate with each other, it impacts a lot. Like if I start something, I know that I have a whole band of brothers or sisters that's gonna come on and stand with me. It even happened for our school, especially in the AUC. I know that if I say something, or if Shannon says something, or anybody in this room would say something, more so that things are gonna happen, things are gonna change.
That's great. That's great. Alexis, what about you? Do you recognize it, and are do you accept that power and that ability to be able to do it? Because some people, honestly, they don't want that. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, and that's fine if some people don't want that. But it's like, when people always ask, is it a requirement of athletes to do that? And I always say, no, requirement. I wouldn't use that word. I would say you have the opportunity to, because it is an opportunity. Because you have the platform and the ability to. But I wouldn't use the word requirement. But what are your thoughts, Alexis?
I definitely agree, and I accept that as student athletes, we have a certain platform that others don't to really get certain messages out into the world or out into the community. I think now more than ever, especially us four, because this was kind of like us, sharing things that we've never talked about us four. So I think this is a conversation starter that can really just change the future.
Great. That's great. That's great. Corriana, what are your thoughts?
At first, I didn't think that I had a voice, like I could speak on certain things. But now, as I'm getting older, I feel like I have a voice to say how I feel, like, and speak on certain things. So yeah, and I know like I have people behind my back that will like support me.
Definitely. And Shannon, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone. I think I know that I have a voice, and sometimes all it takes is sometimes it's just one retweet, one like, one share of a post. Who knows what it could be, but that'll change the world, So I definitely understand it.
So one of the things I want to challenge y'all to do, because this was a great discussion. I know we're coming up on an hour. We said we was going to keep it 2 hours, so I don't want to keep y'all too long. But one of the things that I want to really challenge y'all to do is that y'all are all leaders in your own way right now. But collectively, as organizing and getting the different athletes together could really be a powerful voice. And like I said, you all deserve to be able to feel safe on campus. That number one. We'll talk about the immediate. You know what I mean? With everything that just happened 2 weeks ago, that there shouldn't be. We shouldn't be, when I first ask you, say, "Well, I don't know. Anything can happen at any time." I don't really feel that should not be how you feel. Your response. You should be able to confidently say, "Well, we see what our school is doing. We see the police presence. They've been doing checks. We feel safe. All these things are in place. We have protocols put in place. That's what should be happening. But sometimes, in order to get that, you have to demand it. You know what I mean? Like what does it say? The squeaky wheel gets the whatever that saying is. But you have to be able to demand it. And organizing amongst athletes is a powerful way to demand different things. So you need to make a list. The different funding issues that you have. You shouldn't be able to have that and have it just go quietly. If people are going to come and support you and want to watch you play and perform on the court and everything like that, they should be able to understand and listen to the different issues that you bring to the table that's happening at your school, and they will listen because of what you do. And that's the beauty of being a student athlete. You know what I mean? And that's a tremendous power to be able to have. So like I said, I'm not going to talk your ears off. Like I said, it's been an hour, but I want to appreciate y'all for this conversation. And I got a lot of respect for y'all, because sometimes it's not easy to walk in that. You know what I mean? Like I said, a lot of times some people, they don't want to do all of that. They want to kind of just blend in, stay in the background, and that's fine. But I can tell by even listening to your responses that you are having that there's different things that you want to be different. And it's great when we talk about it and then you put it into action. And that's the thing that I love about y'all generation is y'all are about action. And y'all not about waiting. You're not about, you know what I mean, staying silent. Y'all about action. And I love that about y'all. So much respect to all of y'all. You know, we're gonna put this out and tweet it out. We're gonna tag all of y'all in your social medias. We'll get all the different social media, you know, handles and everything like it. But I want to say honestly, I want to encourage y'all to continue to walk in your purpose. And I want to say this, you know, do y'all realize, and I'll stop, this will be the last question. I want to ask you if you realize that where you are right now, that there are younger people, younger athletes that are watching y'all and being inspired. And this is the way, like I have 2 daughters. And, you know, I live here in DC, so I've taken my daughters to Howard and watched them. They play volleyball, so they've watched, you know, the volleyball teams play, and then the way that they're watching them and the way that they're looking at them. And I'm watching, I'm like, look at how they really like studying them. And then they go and they follow them on social media, and then they follow what they do. And I took them to, you know, another play. I took them to University of Maryland, and they watched them play. And then they start following them on social media. And then it's like, okay, I'm watching what they're doing. And this one sister, I forget her name, but she took a knee during the national anthem, you know, and then this other sister had like half braids one color, half braids another color. So my daughter did the same thing. She was like, yeah. And I'm checking her, and I'm like, wow, like the way that athletes are able to influence younger athletes. It's amazing. And I don't know if because I didn't really know it when I was in school. I went to Syracuse, so I didn't really know it until somebody would point it out to me, or another younger athlete would say, hey, I wear my armband like you did when you know what I mean, or something like that. Do y'all see that? And do y'all see the way that y'all are actually role models, and younger athletes are figuring out how they can operate and maneuver through society, through different things, athletics, both on the court and off the court, by watching y'all? I'm gonna start with you, Alexis. Do you see it?
I definitely see it, but I more needed that reminder as well. So thank you for that, because sometimes, you know, especially the platform that we have at Clark, we might not always feel like that, but really it's like that the majority of the time. So that was a great reminder.
Got you. Corriana, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I know I have sisters and brothers and cousins that look up to me, so I'm trying to like do the best I can out here. And yeah.
That's what's up. Benjamin, how about you? Oh, I think Benjamin froze. Did he froze? Oh, no, he didn't hear me. All right, how about you?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
I definitely think so. Cool. Thankfully think so, because just when I was in high school, now just coming to college, I seen little kids I would give a little dap to, and they would start doing some of the drills I did in my pregame and everything. It's like, wow, like I'm starting to really be a role model to kids at not like at a kind of like a growing age for me, and it's kind of like inspiring, but at the same time, it's like they make me do what I want to do. So it's kind of like, wow, it makes me happy a little bit.
That's real. That's good. That's good. Shannon, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely want to agree with Alexis' point where it's you need that reminder, you know, like when you're growing up, you always mimic whoever it is that you want to be like, or something you see that was cool. And now that I'm finally at that age, I kind of forgot that, hey, you know, I'm doing it for those coming back behind me. You kind of lose sight of that while you're in the moment of time. So it's a great reminder for you to bring that up, because now I definitely understand that's my role as of right now.
Great. Definitely. Well, let me just say much respect to all of y'all. You know, I'm gonna be following y'all and rooting for y'all to keep being the leaders that y'all are, and then keep organizing. I really mean that though. Y'all have the right to be able to feel safe on your campus. And I just want to leave you with that. But much respect to y'all, and thank y'all for sitting on this panel.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. That's what's up.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.